I was just puzzled. How did he win the Medal of Honor?
He won the Medal of Honor. It was a congressional decision, but supported by the Department of the Navy for the North Pole flight, which he did in 1926, 26, from Spitsbergen that I showed the slide of back here. So, can you do that? Okay, well. Okay. Anyway, it was such an amazing accomplishment because he didn't just go down and buy this 3-motored Fokker and go. He had to do all sorts of modifications, including figuring out how to navigate, how to put enough fuel on board. It's very interesting that during that flight, the forward engine, the one on the nose, it started leaking oil, and the oil was spraying over the windshield. And Byrd said, "We've gone this far, let's just keep going." And they kept going, and the oil stopped leaking, and the windshield cleared up, and the engine kept running. And they got back, and it turned out that one rivet about halfway down had popped out. And so when the oil level got down to the rivet, it stopped going out.
Is there some way that they can, with the ski pipe, is there some way that they can measure the strength of the ice before they let down?
Oh, Brian, do you want to talk about a ski drag?
Could you repeat the question?
When the ski-equipped C-130s want to land in a remote field landing, how do they know the ice is strong enough? If you wish. Brian Stone is the head of operations at National Science Foundation. That's his airplane I showed you.
Well, so back in the day when the Navy was operating the aircraft, they would actually fly down and they would drag the skis across the snow surface, and if the crevasses broke through, then they wouldn't land there. We do it a little bit differently now. Now we work with our friends from NGA. I don't know if he's still here. Yeah. So we work with our friends from NGA, and they help us using taxpayer-funded resources to figure out where the crevasses are, and then we can also go out there with radar units and actually drag them across the surface and find out where the crevasses are, and then we'll go out and actually room them with equipment sometimes. So we use a little bit more technology now, a little bit less seated equipment.
I've been on 1 or 2 takeoffs. The landings are rough enough, but the takeoffs seem to be even worse when you're going from an unprepared snow surface. Any more questions? Yes.
Where he wrote the book Alone, is that where he almost died from asphyxiation, was it?
Yes. During that 5-month period at Advanced Base, when Byrd was alone, is this book Alone, is that the one that describes when Byrd nearly died out there at his Advanced Base alone? And indeed, that is correct. And that's why so many people frown upon his decision to go out there alone. What happened is that the stovepipe got clogged up with snow, and so he was breathing carbon monoxide. And the way they sort of figured it out at Little America, they were trading messages every day, and he started sounding pretty quirky. And so they went out with tractors, and the reason today you're not allowed to do that is you don't want to have to put 3 or 5 people at risk to go save one person, which is what they did. Good question. Thank you, and I should have clarified that during the talk.
In Admiral Byrd's view of his life, what did he consider to be his best accomplishment?
You know that slide I showed with the list?
Yeah, I understand.
Like, what's the best thing you did last week? I don't know how to answer that question. Everything he did seemed to build on the last one, until he got to those expeditions where he was pushed aside. So my guess is that he was really proud of what happened after he came. And that last sentence in the book alone, I'm no longer indispensable. To be able to say that to himself probably was a kind of growing up, if you will. Thank you, good question. Anybody else want to ask a question? Yes, sir.
What sort of a relationship did he have with his brother, Senator Harry? Were they close or anything?
What I have read is that Harry was very supportive of his brother. I can't help but wonder if he was maybe a little jealous. Because Byrd, I mean, here Richard was getting all this publicity, and Harry, after all, was a senator. And but Harry was no slouch. He got plenty of publicity for the. He's a different story, that Harry Byrd. So, but I don't really know a direct answer. They, you know, Dick Byrd wanted to, when they were kids, wanted to kill all those boys who ganged up on Harry. Yes, ma'am.
Did Richard Byrd have any kind of a family life? Was he a rounded person, or was he driven solely for these explorations?
Byrd spent a huge amount of time on those things. When he was getting the first expedition to the Antarctic going, he had hoped to spend a few days, or a few hours, I forget, at his house, a wonderful house at 9 Brimmer Street in Boston, Massachusetts. And he couldn't go because of all this stuff. He had to set up the Byrd Antarctic Associates and raise $200,000 instead of being with Marie. But then he went to, just for this trip, he went to California to catch up with the ship. And she came with him. He had the flu while he was there, and it was Marie who basically got Byrd back in shape to get on the ship and leave. So they obviously were close to each other. Marie herself was a strong person. My guess is they both, I don't know, they're independent enough to be able to live on their own without needing each other all the time. That would be my guess. Good question, thanks. Are you holding up your hand with a question, or are you operating your machine?
The back of the room?
Yes.
You showed the slide in 1930 of Little America, and then in 2004 it's not there anymore. Is that climate change, and if so, what other impacts are we seeing in Antarctica?
What are the impacts, when I showed the Little America being ocean 40 years later, or 75 years later, was that because of global change, or it was the natural occurrence in the Antarctic is for snow to fall, and it's been falling for millions of years, and the accumulation rate isn't all that much. But think about pouring batter on a pan, and it just oozes out, falls out towards the edge of the pan. Think if the pan didn't have sides. It would fall off the edge of the pan. That's the natural thing that's going on in the Antarctic ever since the ice sheet first formed 33.8 million years ago, if I've got the number right, around then. So new ice has been coming on, or snow and ice have been coming and going ever since. Now, to the global change question, parts of the Antarctic, in particular the Antarctic Peninsula, I actually threw out a slide that was going to show this, are warming as fast as any part of this planet. And you're seeing sometimes rather spectacular calving of ice shelves, these floating pieces of ice, sometimes within weeks, that maybe it did happen in the past. We just don't quite, I mean, we can't reach back so far in time. And I'm sure Julie and others could do a better job of answering the question. But the fact is that, for example, I showed you that picture of East Base where all the guys were standing there in front of that building. It was built on Stonington Island next to the Antarctic Peninsula. And there was a snow bridge across to the mainland, which was I think, about half a mile. And that bridge was how they took the airplane up to be able to take off up on the mainland. That bridge does not exist any longer. It's open water now. Again, that's in the Antarctic Peninsula region. The rest of the continent is not changing as dramatically.
How thick is the ice on?
How thick is the ice? That cutaway over there is a nice way to look at it schematically. At its average, it's a little over a mile. The thickest part, Julie, can you help me out on that? 14,000 feet or so, the thickest ice in the Antarctic?
Between 12,000 and 14,000.
Between 12 and 14,000 feet. And of course those mountains, you have shallow, deep, depending on where you are. One of the most fascinating things to me in recent years, or in the last decade or so, is that at the bottom of the ice sheet in places is liquid water. And it's there because there's just enough geothermal heat to warm things up. And I don't know where you stand now, I'm retired now. But the idea is to drill down to see what kind of critters might be down there, and they've not been exposed to the rest of the world for millions of years. Good question, yeah. The more we learn about the Antarctic, the more complex it is, if you will, and the more we learn about global changes, it's just a general statement, the worse it seems to get.
Questions breed questions.
Yeah, there you go. All right, one more back there.
Yeah, you mentioned that they had dump supplies in the Antarctic.
I can't hear, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Out of curiosity, what kind of supplies would they be carrying at the time? Like on the boat or on the plane?
What kind of supplies do you take to the Antarctic? Everything you need. And the only exception to that, and it's a great exception, is ice. We've learned how, Ryan's group has learned how to build runways on ice. Runways, not skiways. But other than that, if you need it and you didn't bring it, you're out of luck.
Well, can we give another round of applause? Coming to our Kickoff August in Antarctica event. And Saturday, remember, bring your kids. It's going to be a great family fun day.